Simmel developed epilepsy at the age of 2. Unfortunately, his epilepsy did not allow him to participate in regular activities like other kids. He couldn't hop, skip, eat dinner at a table with sharp utensils, or even go to the bathroom on his own without the fear of hitting his head and having a violent seizure. However, this didn't stop him. At the age of 16, his father gave him a basketball and realized that playing basketball was a dream of his. He continued to have seizures, unfortunately. At the age of 16, he attended a basketball camp where he had an epileptic seizure, and the camp unsuccessfully tried to remove him. It was from this experience that Mike knew that he needed to change the stigma around epilepsy, special needs, and sports. He started in 2005 with his father, Bouncing Out the Stigma, which is a camp program that has grown very big across the country for people with special needs to play basketball, feel empowered, and know that they're not alone and very valued. Mike also has professionally played basketball in a variety of different settings, and he is a basketball guru, to say the least. We welcome Michael to be speaking with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey with epilepsy and where you are now as an adult?
Absolutely. When I was 2 years old, I was first diagnosed with epilepsy. I had my first seizure when I lived in California. I was eating an English muffin, and I was sitting on a stool, and I fell off the stool and started going into seizures. And they took me to the hospital, and they realized I had epilepsy.
Have there been times where you have lost hope and felt hopeless? And if so, how have you pushed forward and persevered?
To tell you the truth, there has been times when I felt hopeless. When I was in college and high school and college especially, because as you know, when you're in high school and college, those are the times in your life when you're most vulnerable. And those are the times in your life when your body's changing, you're changing, you're going through a lot of different things, you're meeting a lot of new people, you know, you're going through different relationships. Even in my professional life too, I was going through a lot of different things too. And it was tough, having something like epilepsy where there's a lot of the understanding of the condition is hard, and you push people away because you don't understand what's going on with you. Basketball, well, when I was a kid, I was in special education gym class, believe it or not, and I couldn't skip. Like I would skip and fall over, and I couldn't do a jumping jack. With simple stuff like. And in special education gym class, they would do different things like, these different exercises, and if you completed them, you get a star, and that's where you get a star at the end of the day. And that's where I built my competition mechanism up, because I felt that if I built enough stars, I would get more stars than the other kids in class. Well, that's a side story, but that's just something you should know, that a little bit about me. I was very competitive as a little kid, even though I couldn't do a lot of things. But my dad saw this, and he said, I love basketball. My dad played basketball his whole life, and he was a great player in high school. And he loved Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. And I would always watch the games on TV with him, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. That was the time in the 1980s when the Lakers and the Celtics were very big on TV. And so he gave me a basketball one day, and we had a hoop in the cul-de-sac. And so I would dribble the ball, and I would just shoot it in, and I would say, Larry Bird, help me now. And I would shoot the ball, and it would go in. And I was like, this is pretty cool. So I would dribble the ball everywhere I went. I dribbled down the street. I had a dog. I would dribble when I walked my dog. I had the only dog in the neighborhood that's head would bounce. I'm not playing. My dog's head didn't do that. But I would dribble when I walked my dog. I would dribble going to school. I would dribble everywhere, all over the neighborhood. All the people knew me in the neighborhood as a kid that dribbled with the ball. They knew me as the kid with the ball attached to his hand. They said, this kid is going places. So I always was everywhere with dribbling the ball, and it led to such great things. And basketball is just taking you such great places.
Program. called Bouncing Out the Stigma. Can you tell us a little bit about the program and how it has expanded and so forth?
Absolutely. So Bounce Out the Stigma, we were actually, it's pretty funny. We were out one night and we were just, me and my dad, and we went to dinner and we sat down and we were just kind of talking, and he just like hit me with this idea. And he's like, no, it would be cool. What if we started a basketball program and we had kids that were forgotten, kids in the middle of the road, kids like you? Because you remember that time when you were at that camp, Mike, when I had to fight for you, and you reminded me about the camp and once again being 16 and everything. And I said, Dad, I said, you read my mind. I always wanted to come to you with this idea because I was going to him with my ideas. It's like if you asked him, he said, I'm just a crazy idea man. And he said, I always wanted to do this. And he said, well, let's do it. And he said, there's so many kids that are forgotten out there. And if we did something like this, it would change the world. And you could be the guy that they look to as the guy that you could be their model. This is it. This is it. This is what you could change the world, Mike. And I said, he said, what I want you to do is put down on paper a business plan and send it to, show me tomorrow or whenever you can, show it to me and I'll help you out with it. I'll help you as far as putting it together, and I want you to try to do it if you think you could do it. So the next day I showed it to him. I was like, that night I got home, I was just putting this together, typing it down, and I showed it to him. This is it. You got it. We got to do this. So that summer we had our first camp. Only had about 18 kids, but it worked. I mean, we were like flying. And never forget your first camp, because it was just like, it made a mark. I mean, it was an indelible mark that I will never forget. And those kids had such a fun time. I was like, I want to do this forever. And I want to do this. I want my life to be like this. And then the next year, the Epilepsy Foundation came in that summer, and they said, we want to partner with you. We want to make it 3 camps. So we did 3 camps the following summer. And then 7 years later, we went on our own, and when we started doing all camps throughout the country. So now we've been in over 25 states throughout the country doing camps. And camps and clinics, actually, I should say. Mm-hmm. Camps and clinics, because clinics are like 1 or 2 day events that we put on. We worked with MBA teams. We worked with colleges. We worked with major nonprofits, major corporations. So anybody who wants to put on a camp, they'll come to us and we'll put it on. And they'll come to me, and I'm like a one-man crew. I'll go and run your camp, and we get the kids and we get some people and round it up and we make it work. And it's so cool, like, to see these kids begin. It's like you're morphing clay. You see them begin, and some of the kids can barely dribble to start. And by the end, some of them are dribbling 2 basketballs, or some of them wrapping the ball around their head and around their waist and doing these different tricks and stuff. And then they have a smile on their face, and you're just like, we created that just by showing them a couple things, and they smile, and they get their own basketball they get to take home, and they get an award, and they're pumping their fists and they're going crazy. Their parents are crying, and you're like, did we just do that? Like, this is amazing. This is like the greatest thing. It's awesome. It's just an awesome feeling. Yeah.
See where you are in your life. What would you have told your younger self 10, 20 years ago, if you could?
Probably would have told a young Mike 10 to 20 years ago, slow down, don't rush, and be patient. Just slow down, don't rush, and be patient.
People who have epilepsy, to encourage them, push forward, especially if they feel stuck and lonely, lost.
I would tell them that, don't let your limits define who you're going to be. If you think that, somebody's going to hold you back in any way, or you think, you can't do something, like, go out and do it. Like, don't let anybody tell you no.
In terms of, obviously they want to talk to you, but bouncing out the stigma, if they're interested, post-COVID, clearly.
Sure. Well, you can Bounce Out the Stigma has an Instagram page, Bounce Out the Stigma. We have our Facebook page is Bounce Out the Stigma, Mighty Mike Simmel, or just you go Bounce Out the Stigma, or it's @ Mighty Mike Simmel. And then our website is bounceoutthestigma.org. That's there. And then trying to think what else. It's pretty much it. Yeah.
I know people are going to want to know, so that's why I asked.
Yeah,
But
no
you,
problem.
you gave a lot of different avenues for them to reach you, so you're all good. This was wonderful.